Hello again, heretics. I'm a little late to this party, so I'll give my thoughts at the beginning of the video. Then if you're so inclined, you can stick around for the rest of my thoughts. As for Teela being the star of the show, I have no problem with her being the lead for some episodes. It happened in the original series. She has a lot of background lore that was only touched on. He-Man being put out of commission for a while, and Teela bringing him back I don't see as a huge problem, so long as the show respects who is the champion of Grayskull. Adam was chosen to fight for her by the Sorceress. As Skeletor says in the trailer, bring forth your champion. That champion is He-Man. I hope Kevin and Netflix respects that. With all that said, let's look at the tweets and the articles and try to make sense of this. For those of you who have watched my other videos, you may have noticed that I'm holding off on believing the rumors. However, the language used in this tweet concerns me. Kevin Smith employs Puritan language here. The first part reads, "If by woke, folks mean the female characters have agency." I trust Kevin is smart enough to know that is not the complaint. I've not seen anybody have a problem with the idea that Teela, the Sorceress, Evelyn, or women in general can make their own decisions. When a man asks his date where she would like to eat, it's very disappointing when she gives us an answer. She makes a decision on it. We were very much looking forward to guessing for the next 15 minutes. You will never hear a guy say that. In fact, I believe there's nothing sexier on a woman than agency. The use of Puritan language is a dead giveaway. Accusing fans of having a problem with female agency seems like an attempt to hand-wave away the concerns. But I believe the concerns are well-founded given Hollywood's track record. As the article says, this isn't something new and has been an agenda pushed by Hollywood for years, as seen by Disney Star Wars, Doctor Who, Ghostbusters, Bird of Prey, Terminator, on and on. The article makes another great point here. Wokeness is about when female and POC characters are empowered at the expense of the original characters. But again, he's trying to boil all that down to just having a problem with female characters with agency. However, Kevin continues, "Then Revelation is exactly as woke as the cartoon to which our series is a spiritual sequel. Because Teela and Evelyn were in every fight, fighting alongside He-Man and Skeletor. This is true. Teela was the captain of the guards, and Evelyn's power rivaled that of Skeletor. You would think the Puritan crowd would love that about this show. But I can't imagine Puritans getting behind a show called He-Man, about a strong, powerful man who does the right thing because it's the right thing to do, who fights for those weaker than himself, who was granted this power because of how good of a person he is. Really, he's a lot like Captain America. And part of me just knows that they're going to make He-Man a big, dumb oaf, which isn't his character at all, because Prince Adam's supposed to be pretty smart. Though sometimes in the cartoon show he was shown to be a little lazy. And then he ends the tweet with, "And the Sorceress is more powerful than all of them." Is she, Kevin? I mean, if she is, then what's the purpose of He-Man? Again, Skeletor states, "Bring forth your champion." He-Man was created for that purpose. Perhaps she's more powerful in some ways. He-Man can't use magic that I'm aware of. Oh well, I can't get too far into that because that could be a matter of opinion. In some ways, Skeletor is more powerful than He-Man. The Cosmic Book site had a synopsis. I didn't want to just trust one source, so I looked for another. On the site What's on Netflix, they had a very similar synopsis. And given that these nearly match, once again it makes me think it may be true. The synopsis reads, "But after a ferocious battle, forever fractures Eternia. It's up to Teela to solve the mystery of the missing sword of power in a race against time to prevent the end of the universe. Her journey will uncover the secrets of Grayskull at last." Doesn't say a great deal of what He-Man's doing. Here is the synopsis on the Cosmic Book News. It reads, "It's up to Teela to reunite the broken band of heroes and solve the mystery of the missing sword of power in a race against time to restore Eternia and prevent the end of the universe." Those aren't very different. Now, here's a tweet that may allude to what I'm hoping will come of this. Matt Jarbo, Monday Matt, the Boulder King. Yes, I know a little bit of internet lore. Do you have a response to the Teela controversy? I'm wondering if Netflix has a synopsis of the first 5 episodes and not of the season as a whole. Kevin responds that we can't release a synopsis for part 2 without spoiling part 1. And so that leads me to believe that maybe Teela is the lead in the first part of Revelation, and then in the second part, it goes to what we're expecting. I know some people may not be happy with that, but I would even accept that as long as He-Man and the original source material is respected. As long as it's not done at the expense of He-Man. Like I said, don't make him a gibbering oaf. Don't do some woke thing and have He-Man be like, oh, Teela, she can't do it. She's one of the lady folks. She doesn't know what she's doing. I'm half expecting that. The recent Hollywood practice of cutting down one character to build up another, the same way they cut down Luke to build up Rey. Here's another bit of evidence brought forth on the Cosmic Book News website. It's a clip from the old Comic Book Men series, where Kevin Smith says he has no love for He-Man.
I have no love for He-Man.
I know, but I have no love for He-Man either, but he's got a place in the world in a comic book story.
As much as that makes me want to grit my teeth, believe it or not, I can look by it. Going off of memory, I believe that Comic Book Men was in the early 2000s. That's plenty of time for somebody to change their mind. However, it's highly unlikely that somebody in the early 2000s would then go back on Netflix or some other YouTube or any other streaming service, look up the original He-Man cartoon, watch it and fall in love with it as an adult. Here is another quote that's been making the rounds. In an EW.com exclusive first look article, Smith was described as a He-Man superfan. He said, everything I've ever worked on in like 27 years, this is easily in the top 5 of my favorite, most satisfying projects, says Smith, a He-Man superfan. I think a description here is that Kevin did not describe himself as a superfan. EW.com did. However, for them to say that, you have to wonder if Kevin told them to say that. Well, not necessarily told them to say that, but suggested it. He said, I'm a superfan. Rob David, a producer of the show, actually shared one of his ideas for quote-unquote progressing the characters. He said, what if there was no Adam? What would He-Man be then? What if Skeletor got the power? What is the destiny of Teela? What if? Why don't you just say, what if Teela was the star? That's what it sounds like to me. Could you imagine how many people would do a backflip if the people producing She-Ra were to say something like that? Oh, what would happen to She-Ra if there was no Adora? What if Hordak won and Bo got the power? Yeah, you know what? Let's do that. Suddenly there is no Adora. Hordak wins and he gets the power of She-Ra. And Fisto becomes the hero. Yeah, that's what I want to see. Let's see Fisto get the power of She-Ra. Kevin Smith did put this out in a tweet. As showrunner, I really could have used these story suggestions before we locked the scripts. However, no. He-Man does no stepping aside and Teela has no girlfriend in our show. The storyline is pretty dark and way metal. Before Revelation, we were calling it End of the Universe. In another tweet, Kevin said, while Teela is as present as she's always been in the Masters of the Universe, and she plays a big role, our series is literally all about He-Man. The article continues, the synopsis also confirms the previous big spoiler reveal and what it means for the show, and that something happens to He-Man and Teela will take over, most likely in part 2 of the series. I imagine I might make a lot of people mad saying this, but I'm not so sure that's what it said. What if Teela takes over in the first part of the series? Her going on a mission to save He-Man or bring back He-Man is an admission that they cannot win without him. He is still the champion. He is the hero. He is needed. That would give us a chance to explore Teela's background. Perhaps she becomes the sorceress. And then He-Man comes back as her champion. Now, don't get me wrong, I have my doubts. I've seen what Hollywood's been doing to all these shows, all these movies. Perhaps you could say I'm just holding on to a small spark of hope. Maybe that kid in me just wants to believe that this is going to be good, that they didn't cave in, they did not bow down. And I have to share the article's last sentiment here. I find it cynical, but I also find it justified. The article reads, "As I have previously stated, this is just another example of Hollywood injecting its politically correct agenda at the expense of quality content and entertainment. Did anyone really think Hollywood would promote a white male, let alone blonde, character as positive?" Now, I'm sure you can do a quick Twitter search for white people or men and see why somebody would come to that conclusion. However, I hold out hope that some things are too big for that. Some things are too iconic. Again, I have to go to the example of Captain America. Now, granted, he's not as powerful as He-Man, but basically his superpower is that he's stronger than most ordinary humans. Throughout his time in the MCU, he was portrayed as a positive figure. And I'm willing to bet that Kevin and Netflix were under a lot of pressure to cave in, as I said before, to make He-Man a stupid oaf, make him toxic, God knows what that means anymore. Some way dumb him down to prop Teela up. I'm sure that was there. However, I'm just old enough to remember sitting on the floor with all my He-Man action figures, seeing those big yellow letters that spell out He-Man come towards the screen and flash, and that theme song is just, it's seared into my memory. And you know, in that show, it never felt like, at least to me, that like He-Man was like, "Ha, I'm better than all of you." He seemed to respect the other warriors. And sometimes Teela would pick on Adam because she didn't understand the secret he was bearing. You know, but it seemed to be all in good fun. She didn't like bully him, but she had a character. And at this point, you can probably guess my age and think, how can somebody as old as you feel so disappointed? It's just a show. Maybe it's the same reason I got excited enough to do videos on it. It certainly doesn't match the theme of my other articles. I see a lot of videos nailing Kevin Smith to the wall over this, and maybe they're justified. I guess I'm just not ready to give up on that yet. When the show comes out, I'll watch it. And you'll probably know if I didn't like it because I probably won't talk about it anymore. I'll just be done with it. I don't like the idea of tearing apart something that I really love. With that said, give me your opinions. Are you still holding out hope, or tell me why I'm wrong? Give me the information that I missed. In my other videos, people weren't shy about telling me that they suspected that this was going to happen. Who knows, maybe I'll get a few I told you so's. And as always, thank you for listening to my rambling, watching the video. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much, and have a great day.